The following characters in this list share one thing in common. They are, currently, the least popular playable characters in their respective games, according to Choose Your Legends 5. And to those who don't play Fire Emblem Heroes and don't know what I mean here, every year, Faye runs a popularity poll on the entire roster of playable characters, and sometimes villains and NPCs, and the top 4 characters, male and female, are given special alts in-game. While some characters score in the tens of thousands, others can barely scratch 20 votes. This video is all about the latter, and this is part 2 of a 2-part coverage of Fire Emblem's biggest losers, or more accurately, the least voted on heroes from FE7 to 3 houses. Soon, we will discover who the newest biggest losers are of 2022 for CYL 6, which may warrant their own new video if the new losers are different. But for now, because it's Choose Your Legends season, let's take a gander at the rest of the unfortunate souls who have the least amount of fans. This video isn't purely a character analysis like usual. I also want to speculate on why these characters are so unpopular in their game. Besides my usual character analysis, this video is way more casual and more of a speculation type thing. So sit back and enjoy. And if you want to watch part 1 before this, the link is in the top right here. Blazing Sword, Barter. We've covered Barter before, from the himbo analysis to his support with Renault, and now here he is again, rocking the title of the least voted Blazing Sword character who is playable with a total of 46 votes, which is 6 less than in Choose Your Legends 4. I'm actually kind of surprised here. FE6 Barter is a pretty big meme, but has been OG to Faye since day one. I've seen plenty of base Barters maxed out, and that goes for his Easter alt as well. It seems like FE7 Barter just could never grasp that spotlight. Barter appears in the first chapter of Elliewood mode, joining Dorcas as they rise out from a Farian village. Barter is hilariously stupid, and if you've seen my himbo video, you would know exactly why that is. From getting people to punch him, to being easily confused by big words that make his head hurt, and generally trying to solve his problems with violence. There's not a lot happening upstairs. You would think that a character like him, who already has love from Faye via his FE6 appearances, would garner more votes, but maybe him already being in the game twice contributed to people being less keen to vote for him compared to other characters in this cast. Not sure. He's admittedly overlooked in the cast, I'd wager. His design isn't terribly appealing, and he's not the most eye-catching man out there, so maybe that's part of it. Hawkeye looks like he's the second least voted character with 63, which still is a decently big margin between the two. In any case, big axemen don't seem to be getting much love in the Faye base. Sacred Stones, Natasha. Even more surprising, at least to me at first, is Natasha being the least popular playable Sacred Stones character. Coming in with 41 votes, our blonde-haired sister is not the most popular girl around, although as we'll see in the rest of this list up till Fates, her votes have significantly dropped from before she was in the game at all, going from 484 to 41. Her design is pretty unremarkable, being a very simple white robe and blonde hair. She's very pretty for sure, and I've always loved her official art. But I mean, you can't get more of a cleric design than this. Unless you're Ellen, I guess. Her supports are nice. She's pretty reserved and kind, which admittedly aren't going to be the traits that hook a player onto her. I like her supports with Joshua and Franz though. She plays pretty standard as an early game healer as well. At first I thought the reason she may have been least voted on as a character was that her writing and design, and to an extent her utility was pretty standard for healers in Fire Emblem, but after looking at the past CYL votes and then having her in the game, that humongous drop-off doesn't just happen naturally. Path of Radiance, Gaither. This one kinda hurts. Losing one himbo to the unpopular category, but another? A little bit of a dagger. Gaither comes in with the least amount of CYL 5 votes for playable Path of Radiance characters with a sad 57. But like Natasha, he had 266 votes from Choose Your Legends 4. So yeah, a net loss of 209. Being newly playable is my guess for the drop too. That is the only explanation for a swing like this. It's not like people just started to not vote for him anymore because he stopped being popular to them. I suppose most Gaither fans got what they wanted. He seemed like a pretty popular pick throughout the years until Choose Your Legends 5. And he's kind of a popular catch too. An early game armor knight that is actually really strong and helpful and has a goofy and fun personality and a great dynamic with his buddy Shinon to boot. So yeah, I'm going with my, well now he's in Faye theory. Personally, I love Gautry. He is one of the peak himbos in the entire series. So strong and so dumb. Like Barter, he was featured in my himbos video, so check that out as well. Radiant Dawn. Raphael. Raphael, in what is a surprise to me, takes the spot for FE10 with 30 votes, in what I can only imagine being something of a similar situation with Natasha and Gautry, going from 317 to 30. Personality-wise, he'd definitely be the Heron that fits the ideal Heron behavior, calm, serene, and gentle, and so on. But what he doesn't have in physical strength, he makes up with in a strong spirit. The injured Heron was captured and sold to Hetzel, who surprisingly treated Raphael kindly until he returned back to full health. Well, relatively full health. Upon hearing about the Serenades massacre, he was strong enough to fly again so as to voyage to Serenades himself. But he wasn't strong enough to keep going, and because of what he went through, crash landed in the Desert of Death, where Nyla, the Wolf Queen to whom he would eventually tie the knot with, finds him. Unlike Rayson and Leanne, Raphael cannot fly, due to the trauma inflicted from his time captured, and so he's actually an infantry class. Besides that, he functions pretty similarly to Rayson and Leanne. In any case, he's a nice guy, and I'm jealous because Nyla is the queen. Like, yeah, Nyla is the queen, but she's also the queen. Fire Emblem Awakening. Brady. Brady, the grouchy bent-over cleric and son of Maribel, claims the spot of the least popular Awakening character with a total of 70 votes, 19 lower than Choose Your Legends 4, and 456 lower before that in Choose Your Legends 3. Again, we probably have a case of you're in Fey now, so I'll vote for someone else, but clearly, Brady still has some fans considering that he still scored 70. Naturally, I'm imagining that this will fall even more though in later years. I've always been drawn to Brady's uniquely uncleric-like personality and artwork, and for that reason he's one of the Awakening characters I like a bit more than the others. Unlike a cleric character like Natasha, or let's face it, virtually any other cleric before him, Brady appears the opposite. He speaks like a ruffian, and has a scar over his eye to further sell the rough and tumble appearance. Instead of the white/bright colored robes, his are black and purple and has gauntlets to boot, and if it wasn't already clear enough that he's meant to look like a thug, his official art is a literal deep squat. But the twist is, he's a softie at heart, and the tough guy persona is a bit of a veal. He acts tough, and to an extent he can back it up, but he's not the most physically conditioned soldier around, to say the least. And in his Owain support, for example, he starts tearing up at the thought of cutting potatoes because it made him feel bad. In the A support, Owain makes the correct observation that Brady is both very sentimental and a quote-unquote huge crybaby. But he tries to keep the act going, insisting to his peers they shouldn't go around telling people that. He might be a softie, but his candor certainly is genuine. Fire Emblem Fates. Funk. Until recently, as of Choose Your Legends 5, capturable bosses weren't able to be voted on. And now that they are, we have data on bosses such as Gazak, Kumagara, Candace, and so on. There are several bosses who tied for last place in voting though. Tarba, Senno, Lewin, and Funk. But I have a personal favorite among these four, and for that reason we are going to talk about Funk. Why? Because I think he has the funniest design and personality of them all. As far as personality goes, being featured in Paralog 9, Saizo vs. Saizo, he's a smug piece of poop. Funk is a selfish and money-hungry outlaw that strikes me as some kind of thug with a penchant for acting mighty noble. He's using Asugi to help break into a manor, but once he betrays him, the flower smeller sets his sights on payback. As a unit, he's honestly pretty bad, having 30% growth nearly across the board except for a 55% speed growth and a 50% res growth. There's literally not much else to say after this. I mean, he has like 10 lines in the entire game. He has a pretty goofy design, but it seems like it's not enough to break this 4-way tie. I wonder what this upcoming Choose Your Legends 6 will bring for the Fates capturables. Fire Emblem Three Houses, Gilbert. Finally, and honestly surprising absolutely nobody, Gilbert is the last ranked playable character in Three Houses, from 120 votes in Choose Your Legends 4 to 84 in Choose Your Legends 5. Gilbert is descending deeper and deeper into unpopular territory, and given that he doesn't even have a single version of himself in Fey, pretty sure that means that 1, it will plummet further for COIL 6, and especially if he actually makes an appearance before Choose Your Legends 7. I've gone into gameplay and story details about Gilbert in a Three Houses video exclusively about him from about a year ago. As a unit, he plays quite solidly when you get him in Azure Moon War Phase, and if you squandered your to-do, he makes up for that mistake by doing a good job at being a physical tank. Coming in with good ranks in Axe and Lance, he can sort of jumpstart his way into Wyvern Lord, which is one of the best classes in the game, and basically 180s his mobility issues. As a character, this is where I would imagine he loses favorability with Three Houses fans, mainly because he's infamous for being a bad dad. When we see him for the first time in the game, he's had a colossal fall from grace. From a famous knight and retainer named Gustav with a beautiful wife and kid, Gilbert is not that. He is guilty over his role and failure in the tragedy of Dusker, and the self-hatred he feels over his actions after the tragedy. The latter actions saw him, in his shame and failure as a knight, run from his home, abandoning everyone and everything to live a life of repentance in Garrick Mach. Based on my experience with 3H and talking to others, people really hate him for abandoning Annette and viewed it as irredeemable and cowardly, which on one hand is sort of the entire point of his character, and it makes narrative sense that he actually feels shame about this, but it's not exactly a major selling point. You know, alongside being a boring old man, he's not really checking any boxes right now for popularity. I go into much more detail about his characterization in this Gilbert video, but yeah, that being said, it's not like you don't need a redeeming story to be popular among the fan base. If you removed his backstory, I honestly don't think there would be a significant change in his placement among the cast. He's very root exclusive in Azure Moon only, and not a hot, sexy fanservice producer. If you ask me, I think he was doomed to be among the last placed characters in this list either way. I mean, like, people shit on Cyril all the time, but at least he got 551 votes last year. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that I have a soft spot for old people characters, and I personally enjoyed his backstory and efforts for redemption. So if you want to know any more, check that video out. Maybe you'll learn something and start to appreciate Gilbert a little more. So yeah, these are the rest of the characters in the series who are the biggest losers according to Faye Choose Your Legends 5. And honestly, I think the most surprising pick to me is FE7 Barter. I guess most folks don't see a burning desire for his more reckless, young, and stupider side to be in the game. I guess we'll settle for his 2 FE6 appearances, albeit that is the lesser Alibi game, in my opinion. Well, viewers, are you surprised at all? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on these characters. I honestly never considered how prior placements, then an actual inclusion into Faye would affect their results for the year after that. I just wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who subscribed recently from the last video. The channel is now less than 400 subscribers away from 91,000. And in case any of you guys were curious, my CYL votes went to Avel from Thracia776. Because I love that woman very, very much. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. A quick one to be sure, and there might be a worthwhile follow-up depending on what the results look like for Choose Your Legends 6. It would be interesting to just go over them anyway. I just want to give a huge shout out to all of the patrons you see on the screen here. Without their monthly support, this channel and I would be in a much different place. So yeah, anyways, I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.